So if I may, I would like for us to journey for a moment in the past. No worries, I won't take us too far, because the most critical moments of this story that I will share take place right here on these courthouse steps and within the courthouse building. Before I get too far ahead of myself, I would like first to introduce the heroine of this story. Her name is Ella Jo Baker. All right, yes. So some people know her as one of, if not the most influential woman of the civil rights movement. And she came right here to Shreveport, right on the heels of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s 1958 visit. Dr. C.O. Simpkins and his wife Dorothy Simpkins, who 3 years after Rosa Parks wouldn't move, she didn't move right here in Shreveport. So they invited this heroine, Ella Jo Baker. She got to the airport and she didn't look like the powerhouse that she truly was. Why did she come to Caddo Parish, known as Bloody Caddo, to help some of the most disenfranchised people in this country register to vote? Why did she come here? Hopefully I can share a bit of the answer today. So she came to organize a citywide voter registration in what Dr. Barbara Ransby, the author and historian of the book Black Freedom, Ella Jo Baker and the Black Freedom Movement, referred to as the Shreveport Movement. Many of us do not know, even though some people, I heard some cheers, so some of us do know who Ella Jo Baker is. But many of us benefit from the method of transformation that only a mother of a movement could bring to life. Her mantra was simple, but potent. Engaging and mobilizing ordinary people in the very critical tasks that face us is the only way to successfully and powerfully resist and then transform. Just as vibrations of Dr. King's visit settled in, Dr. C.O. Simpkins and Dorothy Simpkins, as I said, invited the executive secretary of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference at the time. But she would become the lead organizer and strategist of a movement where she phone banked, she set up one-on-ones, she did home visits, and she did regular things that built up momentum whereby 200 people showed up right here at this courthouse to attempt to register to vote. People that were overworked and underserved, that were battered, intimidated, and threatened because of the color of their skin and their will to overcome their circumstances. She came and organized people to step outside of the box and to overcome a silver fear that penetrated almost every household in the Deep South. This one woman did that right here in Shreveport, and it culminated right here on these courthouse steps. 45 people made it inside the courthouse that day. 6 people were able to actually register to vote. Today's realities have started to resemble, but in no way come close to the type of in-your-face injustices that incubated and segregated public spaces of the 50s. Yet, inequality and inequity have never been so real and chronically systemic. Inequity is alive and well. In the stark disparities that define the lives of darker and poorer voters, workers, and students. Inequality prospers when a single mother who has a child with autism struggles to gain assistance from those mandated to help. Our proximity to injustice can no longer be blotted out or excused by the variations in our zip codes. We have 37 D and F graded schools in our Caddo Parish school system. That's nearly That's nearly 60% of the very same school district that boasts statewide recognition for some of its schools, that can claim community gardens, perpetual parent volunteerism, and robotics classes. How can two drastically different educational experiences coexist in one district? In 2017 alone, 17 million of our education dollars that could have been redirected to support our most vulnerable schools and student populations were paid out to mammoth corporations that choose to prioritize, and I quote, hitting record volume, minimizing inventory and capital spending, versus creating meaningful jobs and contributing to a community that they so easily drain. According to Together Louisiana's 2017 report, now think about this 17 million that left. Approximately, it only takes 14 million to expand early childhood education right here in Caddo Parish. Meanwhile, research suggests that our babies have a 31 million word gap, and there aren't enough early childhood education classrooms in our community to accommodate this blistering need. The United States Supreme Court said it best in 1954. Public education is a right that should be available to all on equal terms. Just last year, the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights said that equity now looks different. It looks like responsible and equitable public school finance systems that provide meaningful, not standardized testing, but meaningful educational opportunities that not only promote student achievement, but can alter the trajectory of a person's life. This report makes a game-shifting parallel between school funding inequity and gaping educational disparities determined by those 5 digits of our zip codes. The Commission points to the data demonstrated reality that students of color are much more likely to live in concentrated poverty and attend a high poverty school, while our whiter and wealthier counterparts enjoy a vastly different reality. The same is true for poor people of all ethnicities. Mothers bear the brunt of these disparities, as a majority of the families reflected by these numbers are headed by a hard-working woman. As we push deeper, we find that where we lay our heads at night increasingly dictate our life outcomes. Simple, tactical missteps, such as magnet school parents receiving revealing and informative reading score reports that neighborhood school parents do not, beg uncomfortable questions about what disparity truly means, what it is rooted in, and ultimately where it leads us, all of us. The dusty promises of the great equalizer, education, linger in the air to the tune of deafeningly silent school board chambers. When will the 7-1103 receive the same regard, reverence, and resources that the 7-1129 reflects? Yet it does not matter how far away we are from each other when we are asleep, but how close we stand when we are awakened. So mamas, sisters, daughters, aunties, and allies, let's see how close together we can stand in 2018 and beyond. We are literally standing in the footsteps of the 200 that came to register to vote in 1959. A critical mass of Shreveport's overworked and underserved. The dexterity of such a constrained group of resilient people certifies that we can stand for and with the 20,000 Caddo Parish students left behind by school performance scores that don't tell enough of the story and dismal systemic failures that tell it all. The untold wealth of an untapped and highly underrated human capital emboldens us and requires us to act and serve in the immediacy of now. Whether you are a mentor at a school or a warm body filling a seat at the school board meeting, you render those 5 digits screaming to define you lifeless and limp. For where you truly live and experience life is where the heart is. So much more than we need your head in the game. We need your heart at the center. It is only through the heart that we decide not who we will vote for, but why we are voting in the first place. I'm almost done, but hear me now. Do you believe in the right for every child in Caddo Parish to have an equitable and equal quality education with meaningful learning opportunities that improve student achievement and life outcomes? Do you view education as the great equalizer that provides human beings the opportunity to live, lead, and build lives that impact their livelihood, their families, and their communities? Do you believe that parents should be empowered and supported, not pushed out and shamed? Can our children be traded for $17 million, or are they worth the future of this city? Do you have an hour? If you answered yes to any of these questions, I request your presence to sit with us on January 23rd in the Caddo Parish School Board, to walk with us as we go door to door on the Cooper Road in the MLK neighborhood on February 4th, to talk with us on February 1st at Bonton as we learn about what education justice is and means in Caddo Parish, and ultimately to prepare with us as we go toward November 2018. Lorraine Hansberry, famously known as the writer of the Raisin in the Sun, once said, "What is possible is reality." So I say, the reality is they will hear our vote. They will feel the vibrations of our voice as we stand for education justice in Shreveport, Louisiana. And the 5 digits of our zip codes have never been so obsolete.